Hello, this is Team GMJ. We're doing an essay on social media pros and cons for ART104. My name is Tan.
My name is Maria. My name is Jeannie.
And this is our essay.
The influence of our technological advancements is severely underestimated as we adapt to its rapid changes. The rate at which we comprehend our technological tools are not keeping up with their progressions. We do not have a conceptual understanding of the dynamics that exist in the virtual world and how it influences our social perspectives. In addition to the positive and negative aspects of the internet, we will be discussing the gray area of this matter. To further elaborate, we will be focusing on social media, seeing as it is a platform organized for interactions. We will be addressing some of the unrecognized social dynamics that exist in the virtual world due to our unfamiliarity with what our technological tools could afford as they progress past our conceptual understanding for it. Social media is thought to be intended to allow an ease in staying connected, for a convenient method of keeping in contact with people in your life. Behavioral observations regarding online interactions showcases an interesting comfort in dehumanizing people, even while logically understanding that it is an actual person they are speaking to. We fail to consider the lack of communicative cues that are received when conversing online. There aren't any facial expressions, body language, or tone of voice present to be as thoroughly and efficiently explanatory as an in-person interaction. The benefit of the doubt or compassion that is normally offered in physical face-to-face communication would be determined by a lift of an eyebrow, a humble posture, a confident tone, etc. These aspects are entirely absent when talking online. Thus, this convenience results in simplified interpretations full of assumptions to make sense of the whole picture. The lack of effective communicative cues influences a disregarding of the compassion and empathy aspects a real-life interaction would extend. A light instance of such can be recognized in the offense when that is commonly taken due to the expectation to respond immediately. People are quick to assume that they are being ignored or dismissed because there should be no excuses with being a fast communicator. The reality is that people should never be obligated to keep in contact just so that they don't appear rude. The reality is that people don't always have the mind capacity to be communicative because we each have our own lives to tend to. The obligation, pressure, and expectation was not the same as when our methods to connect were far more limited. For example, landlines, letters, and even emails. The ability to stay connected through social media creates an unrealistic expectation to constantly be in touch. The smartphone is a human's magic wand. It is utilized for more than communication and connection. A specific outcome that is a result of the internet social dynamics is cyberbullying, which actually Tan will be elaborating on later. It is unjust to have a single individual receive a crazy abundance of hateful expression without the leniency that communicative cues from real-life interactions would offer or extend. The question in such a case should be whether or not public and social shame or reaction is what an internet user deserves. For instance, there is a 9-year-old girl named Lil Tay that is currently notorious for obnoxiously praising herself on being the wealthiest billionaire 9-year-old. She is receiving an incredible amount of hatred that people can't help but feel refreshed by. Despite the fact that the girl is showcasing characteristics that are loathworthy, she is still just a 9-year-old girl, an age where one is just beginning the journey of real confidence, of real self-confidence. She happens to be a young girl that is living in a time where her methods for doing so could cause an uproar with the amount of viewers accessing her social media platforms. It is a mix between the lack of understanding for mass reception and the tools she is using to what she believes is simply expressing oneself. Recording videos is now also a form of preserving every embarrassing moment on one's journey for this real confidence. Before social media, people could mess up, learn, and move on. Currently, if you fuck up online, the individual would absolutely be called out. This addresses the positive aspects of these kinds of social interactions, which is accountability. The fact that social media usage can allow a worldwide connection is fascinatingly curious. A solid example would be a severely closed-minded individual surrounded by racism that is still present as a norm of their proximity in society. For example, imagine an individual from a notoriously conservative state like Missouri hearing different opinions on the functionality of the world from the diversity-rich states such as California. People are becoming exposed to perspectives around the world. Enlightening them to the ethical and moral update the ontologically progressing world is demanding. It is influencing a domino effect of views that have reached its time to die. It is an encouragement of questioning the truths one was raised to believe defines everyone else's existence and reality. It is a mass delivery of awareness and humility. In the instance with Lil Tay, it is a curiosity in whether or not the abundance of hatred would in turn encourage her to generate a defense in opposition so convincing to herself that she is not receiving the checking people are intending with their words. To elaborate on the positive aspects of mass social interactive platforms, I wanted to mention a viral video from Vice Australia that featured a woman with dissociative identity disorder and how each personality had a different artistic style as a painter. It showcases the complications of mental disorder and the dismissal of mental health as a society. The most positive aspect was drawn from the number of individuals with DID that were able to receive acceptance, support, and most importantly, understanding. So that further addresses the interesting reaction to the need for more efficient virtual communication. We're adapting to it. An example of such are emojis and memes, and we're basically created a method to describe and communicate a very specific feeling in one image. So social media affords an exposure to the thoughts and opinions of those that are not in one's proximity. It is a new and current way for having accessibility or gaining knowledge that is not a norm from where you're originally from or where you are. It is exposure to the possibility for many to question their foundational standing as a person, basically.
Okay, so we'll be discussing about the topic of cyberbullying. Social media creates a safe environment for people to communicate around the world. However, this safe environment can turn very toxic due to cyberbullying becoming a big problem. Cyberbullying is done by one or a group of individuals who use social media as a platform to act aggressively towards a victim. There are 3 criteria to cyberbullying, 1 being intent to harm, 2 is imbalance in power, and lastly, repetition of the act. According to Cyberbullying, Social Competence, Motivation, and Peer Relations by Romira Eva, usually the victim have a very low level of social skills, while the bully are known to have their way with words. Eva states that adolescence has been associated with learning new ways of relating, personal growth, and enhanced social outcomes, which contribute to social efficiency and great acceptance from peers. This shows that in order to relate to each other, the group has to find something in common. In the case of cyberbullying, their victim. A victim of cyberbullying often receive hateful messages, email, and even death threats. With the anxiety of being an outcast and the freedom of using social media taken away, it affects the victim's overall physical health. Victims of cyberbullying often experience depression, low self-esteem, and loneliness. According to college student cyberbullying, self-esteem, depression, loneliness, and attachment by Marie E. Varghese, low self-esteem often causes a student to disclose more information about themselves or exaggerate the news in order to make themselves feel important. Varghese performed a survey gathering of 338 undergraduate students at a university. In the survey, questions relating to self-esteem, depression, and loneliness were addressed. Varghese found that 106 students out of 338 individuals received score that signifies that they are close to being clinically depressed due to cyberbullying. Victims are often unable to reach out to others in fear that they might get into more trouble and in fear that other people wouldn't trust or understand them. And facing cyberbullying in the age where social media is an essential form of communication disable the social activity that the victim have, which can make them feel very lonely. In worst cases, victims can experience death threats and blackmails. Death threats are usually done through intimidating the victim with physical harm, while blackmails is when the offender has some leverage against the victim and enable the victim to report the incident. In more severe cases, the victim end up taking their own lives.
So I'm going to be talking about social media and how it enforces this luxurious lifestyle when you are scrolling through your feed on Instagram. So the internet has given us a free platform to express ourselves, whether that be to share our day-to-day vlogs, our important topics, or just to share our opinion to the world. Social media is one of the primary platforms that people use to communicate today. Platforms used as Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter, I'm sure you've heard of them all. They are having positive effects on people's lives, but they're also having adverse effects that are destroying people's self-confidence, such as the unrealistic body standards that social media portrays and how it affects others into thinking that they have to look a certain way. Being viewed as success nowadays is being popular on social media, with multiple companies working to sponsor you to stardom. The issue of not being the ideal beauty is creating a deeper kind of depression in society, which is causing young adolescents to feel the need to grow up faster to portray this worldly image of beauty. Although this is a problem in today's society, the positive effects that social media can have on someone's life is unmanageable. The fact that someone can make enough income to survive and live in a big city as big as Los Angeles, and to be supported merely off Instagram posts or videos on YouTube is a way the younger generations want to make a living today. It was stated by Daily News that more than 3/4 of youngsters say they consider a career in online videos. According to a survey of 1,000 children ages 6 to 17, the research by travel firm First Choice revealed that 34% of children would like to be a YouTube personality, with 1 in 5 wish to start their own channel. As you can see, social media has alternated the way young minds want to live to make a living today. Adolescents no longer want to strive to get a diploma, but instead wish to be a success on social media with over 1 million subscribers. Working in the industry of social media, it seems to be like a dream come true. But the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of false information is being portrayed over the net to make it look as if everything you see is real. There are famous Instagram models who represent this image of the perfect body and showing individuals that it's possible for any person to achieve the same results. But in reality, using programs like Photoshop to manipulate the figure they want is one of the ways individuals are coming up in the fitness community. According to Generation Iron Fitness Network, they stated that Photoshop would be incredibly helpful to gain more likes, more followers, and make more money. The terrible thing about this is that it sets unrealistic expectations for those inspired by it. Magazines have been doing this for decades. But since Instagram accounts can feel so personal, there is an extra layer of betrayal behind this. The misconception of this does start to affect the way we view ourselves and the world we live in today. Without knowing the facts of what that person is using to achieve their body's desires, we are all under the influence that what they are showing us is genuine. But it doesn't stop there. The advertisement that these social media influencers are promoting to their viewers are causing individuals to believe that whatever products they are using is incredible. But they do make money to get publicity for that product. So you can't always accept what they say to be true. Taking advantage of an opportunity to get ahead in life doesn't seem like a horrible thing to do. But if it's misleading hundreds of people, sooner or later you won't be an accountable source of truth. So even though social media can pave your way to stardom, getting their own lies isn't worth your integrity in the long run.
So just to wrap it up, social media is a double-edged sword that brought us the luxury of fast communication and exposed humans to new ideas. It also created a variety of issues. For example, cyberbullying is an ongoing issue that originated from the free range and the anonymity environment that social media created. When a person is behind screen, they tend to take less notice of others' emotion around them, as the person can talk to whoever they want. The anonymity factor allowed the cyberbully to lash out at their victim without being noticed. Moreover, social media creates and enforces unreal social standard upon its user by showing the desirable body type and lifestyle that everyone would want. Victims of this incident often feel a very low self-esteem and with psychological issues such as depression and loneliness. Overall, this essay serves as an educational tool to caution users to be more careful with the things that they see and the things that they post on the net.